Yo, it's DeMarcus Lawrence, and you're watching Good Morning Football.
Yeah,
What's up, T-Law? All right, well, time for Will Selva in the newsroom out in Culver City. I filled in for this guy once. This is a rough shift. You always have so much energy and enthusiasm at this hour.
Oh, thanks. I try to. I think for 4 years I've been getting up at 1 in the morning, but I try to match the energy that all of you have there inside the studio, which isn't easy to do. But either way, it is a fun shift. And as you've seen, Jane, these guys are unpredictable as all get out. And we are only, 40 minutes into the first hour. So hang in there and have fun. Meanwhile, we are learning more and more what Jameis Winston was playing with last season. A broken thumb and poor eyesight. That's the perpetual squinting, which led him to get LASIK eye surgery. But that's not all. Not even close. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reporting Winston underwent surgery to repair a torn meniscus that needed to be trimmed. These issues may explain why he tossed 33 touchdowns with 30 picks. Winston's future in Tampa, of course, remains very much up in the air. Now, on the topic of Tampa, continuing, Rap Sheet also reporting the Bucs are strongly considering using the franchise tag on Shaq Barrett if they can't reach a long-term deal. This would have an effect on Jameis Winston. If the Bucs tag Barrett, then they can't tag Winston and vice versa. Barrett with a career year leading the NFL with 19.5 sacks in 2019. Now, another pass rusher would like to stay where he is. This, of course, depends on whether the money will be there as well. Jadeveon Clowney telling ESPN he would definitely like to return to Seattle, but is also open to new opportunities if it comes down to that. He had 3 sacks, a pick, and 4 forced fumbles in 13 games last season. Another pass rusher was part of our NFL Scouting Combine coverage. Cam Jordan, also friend of the show. NFL Network's Mike Silver reporting Jordan played the final 5 games of the season and the Pro Bowl with an adductor muscle torn off the bone. Except for the injury and the loss to the 49ers, now Jordan underwent core muscle surgery 2 days after the Super Bowl, and he should be ready for training camp. Boy, his pain tolerance to be able to do that. I get a little raspy voice, Jane. I am done for 2 to 3 weeks. I can't handle things.
I'm soft, too. I admit it, Will.
Yeah, we all are. That's fall off the bone. It sounds like barbecue stuff. But we love him, of course. He's always great on TV and great on the field. Will, we'll get back to you in a minute, but we got to talk some Cowboys.
Yep.
Okay. Jane, nobody in the industry more plugged in than you about the Cowboys. You heard Jerry last week mention that about a possible Des Bryant reunion. He's been thinking about it in the shower. That was his quote, which everybody laughed at, but I actually think is actually significant. What did you think of the quote, and what do you think of the likelihood that number 88 could be back with the Cowboys?
Well, on the quote, I used to have a radio show in Dallas called The Elfin Slater Show, and so Jerry would come on once a week, and we would interview him. And when he would talk to us, he was typically driving his car, he was having breakfast, and he's constantly in movement. Like, we'd hear him tapping the spoon on the side of a coffee mug or thumping his hands against the car. And, typically you're like, hey, it's radio, but you don't tell Jerry anything, right?
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think I've often joked that this man doesn't sleep. It's pretty amazing. I think he's one of those guys that has a notepad next to his bed.
An idea pad?
He's taking notes, right?
Vampire Diaries.
But what I thought was fascinating about this, I had gone out and done a sit-down interview with Des Bryant with my producer Bobby Belton in Dallas. We have a podcast for Fox in the Herd. It's called the Boys and Girl Podcast, and Des and I sat down 4 hours after he'd gotten cut from the Cowboys. It was an emotional day. Of course, he name-checked some people over the summer. I thought he had fractured some relationships within the organization. I was there with him when he got picked up by the Saints, cut 2 days later because he was turning upfield and he tore his Achilles. And so I think a lot of people sort of dismiss this idea of a comeback. And my argument's been, if you know where Des came from and where he got, a return is not that improbable for a guy that has willed himself past everything he grew up with. With that being said, he was very candid about where his mind was at. He got really depressed and really struggled with a lot of things after he got cut from the Cowboys. And he said, I asked him, I said, you had a chance to go to Cleveland, the Ravens. Do you regret it? And he said, no, my head wasn't right. His head has been right. He reached out to Stephen Jones himself. He doesn't even have his agent doing this stuff. Reached out to Stephen Jones, and he told me he was encouraged by the fact that Stephen's typically pretty blunt with him. And Stephen did not rule out the possibility of him coming back, and that's fueled him even more. So now we're seeing him at Apex in Fort Worth, Patrick Mahomes throwing to him. Guys, he's showing up 15 to 20 minutes ahead of of his workouts, which if you've covered him the way that I have, that was one of the big knocks on Dez. You're not going to physical therapy. Your body's not in shape. You're not. Are you setting a bad example for young receivers in the room? And he was candid. He said, no one's paying me to do this. Football's important to me. My daughter asked me, Daddy, are you ever going to play football again? He said, and that gutted me. And the fact that Stephen Jones didn't turn him down, he said he is now motivated more than ever. And so I was shocked that not only did Jerry not dismiss this, but there is a strong possibility they're going to go to his workout, because Dez is literally practicing. If this is the Cowboys facility, here is the performance center he's practicing at. He is making sure that they have no excuses not to come over and at least give him a look. And I think this Amari Cooper thing is going to be intriguing. Yeah. What they do with, obviously, the draft. Michael Gallup, I think, is a superstar. Kay Adams, and I think he's, coming a long way. But I think what's important about Dez, you add him to his roster, maybe bring him into training camp and say, you're going to go on the practice squad. You're going to have to work your way up.
Wow.
Humble him a bit, because I think he's in a humble place. But seeing him work with guys like Corey Coleman and Lil Jordan Humphrey at his workout, this is a guy I think you want in your receiver room. Yeah. I think he builds up the guys around him. There were people showing up at the facility when we tweeted out we were there, throwing up the X and waiting for autographs. His light, his energy is still very iconic in Dallas. And quite frankly, I feel like that team sort of needed a player like that since he's been gone.
No doubt about it. Listen, and Dez said he had something really big planned for 2020, and I feel like this might be it. And speaking of those fractured relationships, one of those was Jason Garrett. Jason Garrett is no longer there. Yeah. So maybe it might be easier for him to walk into that building because some of those individuals that the bridges may be burned with aren't in there. And
over the weekend, he was spotted at Nick and Sam's. It was Michael Gallup's birthday, and he sort of bumped into all the guys, and he said that he's cool with the Sean Lees of the world. He's sort of, the one thing about Dez, yes, there is an emotional element to him, but he's also really good at relationships, and he sort of followed up with these guys, and I think there's a possibility there could be a reunion.
Jane, great stuff.
Jane, awesome.
All right, so what?
Who has John Q on Blu-ray and is always paying attention to the NFL Combine. Will Saba, we are buzzing this morning. What's going on in the news world, and how are you?
I am doing well, KB. Glad to have Jane Slater there at the desk. And Jane, do what you can to try to keep them in line. It's difficult to do.
It's a tough job.
But if there's anyone who can do it, it is you. So welcome to the program. And there is other news to get to. Of course, we've been following all the storylines at the Combine. But Plan A in Dallas, of course, is to sign quarterback Dak Prescott to a long-term contract extension. Now, if Plan A somehow is not executed by March 12th, then Plan B will be going into effect. NFL Network insider Ian Rappaport reporting the Cowboys would place the exclusive franchise tag on Prescott, the exclusive part of it signifying the average of the top 5 salaries for the current year. According to Ian, the exclusive tag for QBs this season is estimated to be around $33 million, $6 million more than the non-exclusive tag. More quarterback news for you this morning. The wife of Lions quarterback Matthew Stafford is looking out for her guy, and as such, she wanted to make one thing abundantly clear. Kelly Stafford posting on Instagram a picture of her husband with the caption, "We ain't going nowhere," nor has that ever been a thought. He loves Detroit and the Lions organization. Setting the record straight there. Meanwhile, Andy Dalton's wife hasn't publicly chimed in on her husband's future in Cincinnati, at least not that we know of, but they could be on the move. Rap Sheet reporting there are 3 teams interested in Dalton: the Bears, Colts, and Patriots. Ian adding that if Tom Brady signs somewhere else, the Patriots' backup plan might be Dalton. Now, according to Rap Sheet, there hasn't been any hardcore negotiations between teams and the Bengals. As Tom Brady's future with the Patriots is TBD, to be determined, his top target, wide receiver Julian Edelman, stumping to keep him in New England. How about this? Edelman selling T-shirts that say, "Stay, Tom 2020, a quarterback you can trust." Edelman including the caption, "New England is a democracy." So Edelman actually going and taking this one step further and actually making merchandise, making it a cottage industry as to where Tom Brady may go or may stay. Either way, those two were seen most recently.
Edelman's our MVP right now. Kind of wacky. He's like the wacky vice president where the president's like, "Shut up, dude. I'm running the country. I got a thing I'm doing here, right?
Yes.
Stop talking."
Yes.
That's great.
I mean, they had to replace Gronk at some point, right?
Yeah.
Edelman's really had to step
Stepping it
up.
up.
That's it. Thank you, Selva.
Absolutely.
See you
Yep.
soon, my friend.
Yep.
You know, my dad's name is Tom. Now I feel like I have to go get that.
That's a
now.
democracy.
That's an amazing.
Democracy.
Now more than ever.
My poor dad, though, with 2 daughters in his house, it is not a democracy.
No.
All right. Well, Julian Edelman.